A student-made film. This documentary is to show the shocking amount of students who aren't educated on laws. These laws impact students' daily lives and can affect their mental health.
Created by Jeffersontown Louisville High School Next Gen students.
Kentucky Uninformed.
What are your thoughts?
Do you know about Kentucky Senate Bill 6?
I do not.
No, I do not know about Senate Bill 6.
Maybe, but I definitely don't know it by bill number.
No.
Yes. Yeah, very familiar.
I'm not too familiar with it.
Not by number, no.
I know a little bit about Senate Bill 6, just in the broadest terms. But one thing I can say is that having recently gone through an MAT Alt-Cert teacher prep program, honoring student identities and honoring student experiences, and I mean simple things like making sure you saying the name that they prefer is actually really affirming for students. So anything that limits my ability as a teacher to treat people like the human beings they are asking to be treated as is something that I have a very hard time understanding where they're coming from.
Now, a lot of you might be wondering what Kentucky Senate Bill 6 is.
At universities, colleges, trade schools, and vocational schools, post-secondary education, students and employees will not be punished for refusing to use a person's preferred name or pronouns, and can use a person's legal name and pronouns without punishment. Students and teachers also do not have to be supportive of a certain ideology to graduate, be promoted, etc. Do you know about Kentucky Senate Bill 238?
No.
No. Yeah, I'm familiar.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
William, I've heard of it, I just haven't read too much into it.
Same thing, not by number.
I'm familiar with Senate Bill 238, but again, in only the broadest terms. As an English teacher, I'm not addressing directly human sexuality and sexual content at all. However, in the world of literature and research and current events, these things do come up. I probably should be a little bit more conversant with the Senate bill and what I am limited.
Now for Kentucky Senate Bill 238. This bill makes it able for parents to not allow their child to take health class. This can cause a less rounded education for the child. This bill also requires the parent's permission and a documented note from a doctor stating that the child has gender dysphoria for them to use their preferred name and pronouns.
Why is this important to know? 93% of transgender and non-binary youth said they have worried about transgender people being denied access to gender-affirming medical care due to state or local laws.
91% of transgender and non-binary youth said that they have worried about transgender people being denied access to the bathroom due to state or local laws.
I have not been witness to direct kinds of harassment on the basis of gender or sexual identity. However, it is pretty common to hear the F word thrown around by students. They use it very casually in a lot of ways, and it's not as hateful as when I was a kid, and yet those stigmas still remain. That said, I know that just recently in this building, we had flyers hung up for our Pride Club, and those have been conspicuously removed by people unknown. And that alone is sort of chilling for the students who are taking part in those activities and trying to find affirmative ways of just being themselves.
I mean, we can always improve. We can always get better. I think that what I see is I still see casual homophobia and bigotry in our language and the way we speak. I push really hard in my classrooms against any kind of joking, whether it's intended or not, where it's just this casual speech. And somebody who is not personally homophobic, will use words as insults. We've all heard that. And I'm like, hey, you can't say that. And they say, oh, I didn't mean it like that. It's like, it doesn't matter how you meant it. It came off that way. And other kids heard that, and they felt it, So whether or not you intended it a certain way, that's how it comes off. And so I think it's not what's in young people's hearts that's like needs improvement. I think it's what's kind of like casually happening that they don't really think about.
Do you plan to vote?
Yes, definitely. I do plan on voting when I'm old enough.
When I turn, I think 18 or 21, yeah.
I do plan to vote. I try to vote in every election if possible. Some are more important than others, but they're all important.
Yeah. I am registered to vote.
I have not missed a vote since a primary, probably about 24 years ago. So voting is a huge priority for me. I always go, I always take my kid with me. When we can, I'll go with my wife and my child.
Why do you think voting is important?
It's important because it's just basically impacting our lives, because local elections too, because that's the ones that you mainly need to be focused about, because that's your I don't know, district, county, whatever, that's the main thing that that's affecting you because you live in that area. But then the presidential elections are important too.
I think that it's something that not everybody has access to. As a history teacher, I'm acutely aware that many people in this country have had to fight, and many people in this country have died for the right to vote. And so for me to not vote seems pretty callous, and it seems kind of egotistical to throw away that right that people have fought for. I think that voting in America for some people is a tough sell, because I think that people feel like their vote doesn't count. I think that people feel like both candidates or all candidates don't think about them. And in a lot of cases, I think that's true. And it's unfortunate. But I do think that we fought too hard for the right to vote for me to throw it away. And I try to vote as if I'm a marginalized person, from one of those groups that we've been talking about today, because at the end of the day, a lot of policy isn't going to affect me because I'm a cisgender white male. And if, something happens, it's not going to personally affect me, but it's going to affect people I love. And it's going to affect other people who maybe don't have the same privilege that I do. So I try to vote as if I'm those people, because I have the luxury of saying, I'm not going to vote, and it not affecting me. But not everybody does.
I think being able to vote for someone who speaks for you is great and helps, civilization and things like that.
About the only way that we can communicate the will of the people, and it comes in very, very small incremental steps, but that's how movements happen. Refusing to vote, or not being empowered to vote, or having the franchise taken from you is just a way to ensure that people who are making decisions on everybody else's behalves are not being held accountable. So I think it's really important to vote. And also, I'm a very pragmatic person, and voting is not about picking an ideal. Voting is about making a choice between options, however many options there are, and trying to find the one that is most appropriate for what you have a vision for the future.
The importance of young voters. They really do impact elections. They were a key part in getting Biden's votes over Trump's in some states during the 2020 election. There's been some misinformation about younger people voting less than the other generations, but when the older generations were Gen Z's age, they actually voted less than Gen Z does now.
So, what does this mean for students? To get informed by reading state bills that could get passed and affect you and or the people around you. You can advocate for change You can spread awareness about how we should do what is right. For example, we can make sure the information is from a reliable source. Ask an adult or teacher, look it up, watch a trusted news network, use social media, engage in unbiased media, talk to other people for their perspective.
Helpful news articles and helpful organizations. Education Week has lots of informative articles and covers many different topics. The ACLU is a great organization that helps people whose rights have been violated. This map shows anti-LGBTQ laws and how many there are per state. Movement Advancement Project covers more on anti-LGBTQ laws, and it also covers things like religious discrimination and suicide prevention for LGBTQ people. USA Facts is a great non-biased source that covers many different topics, including crime, economy, education, and more.
States that have passed anti-pronouns/preferred name laws. These have been passed or have been put into the position to pass. These laws are from 2023. If not taken and fought, then LGBTQ+ students won't be able to feel comfortable in their own school. This not only affects their well-being, but also their academic success. The chart on the left is a great website to check sources for strong biases. And on the right is a good website to check political things people have said in journalism and if they lean true or false. Leaving messages.
People usually can stand up for people to help out, it's more common nowadays.
Just trying not to be as judgmental as they usually are. Most teens these times are just judge others based on how they look or just how they dress, or just specifically on grades as well. Just people think others are worse than them or better than them.
I do feel that young people are a really huge part in how the world works now and how it's going to be in the future. Because just think when adults get even older and maybe even pass on, it's going to be the younger people who are going to grow up and are going to have to take over. And when you look at a lot of the things such as bullying and cyberbullying, a lot of that happens in schools, from teenagers to adolescents and older. So I really feel like it is important to educate young kids on what is happening, because in reality, this is the world that they are also living in, and a lot of people don't actually realize that. What I have to say is just don't be afraid to stand up for people, and especially don't be afraid to ask for help, because there are people that want to help